Every artist has their go-to supplies, and finding my personal favorites did not happen overnight. Some of these tools I've used for years, and some of them I didn't discover until later in my own art journey. Today, I'm sharing my top 20 art supplies, the ones that I use consistently, the ones that I swear by and just make art a little more fun. Hi everyone, if you don't know me, my name is Cora, or you can call me by my art name Azure. I'm a painter, illustrator, animator, and comic designer, and I've been sharing my art online for a little while now. But today I wanted to do something a little more different, a bit more of a transparent look into all the art supplies that I use within my own craft. I've spent years experimenting with art supplies, some great, some not so much. But after a lot of trial and error, I've built up a collection that I truly resonate with. These are the materials I reach for constantly, whether I'm sketching, painting, carving, or working digitally. I figured if I'm gonna keep showing my process here, it makes sense to show the real, everyday tools behind my work. So if you're curious about what's in my grab pile, the supplies that I reach for on an everyday basis, or if you're looking for new supplies to put within your own craft or collection, this one is for you. Let's get into it, shall we? First, we're going to start off with the sketchbook. I actually have 3 here because I wanted to show you just how much I use these, and to just show you what it looks like brand new. These always sell really fast in my area, so I always end up getting a backup just in case. So this is the Render sketchbook, and I didn't find this sketchbook until later in my college years, and honestly, I wish I had sooner. Before this, I went through so many sketchbooks. Some were okay, but none of them really fit how I worked. The pages were always too thin and not versatile enough, and anything like ink or markers would bleed through. I ended up skipping every other page just to avoid ruining my sketches, and I hated that. Even when the paper didn't bleed, it would buckle under paint or feel scratchy with certain pencils. It was frustrating because I wanted a sketchbook that could handle whatever I threw at it. Personally, a lot of them just couldn't, like with pencil, ink, marker, or even just acrylic paintings inside. This is the one that's been mostly used in my time in college for some painting classes. And at that time, I personally couldn't afford getting big canvases every time that I went into class and to paint. And so I was really looking for a sketchbook that could work with acrylic paints or any types of paints I wanted to put on it. And that's when I found Render. And it literally changed how I sketch and how I just do anything in revolving around sketchbooks. This is the one I'm currently working in right now for my own personal artwork and less school-related things. So it's not done yet, it never is. I always like jump between pages all the time. But yeah, this sketchbook is truly something I love and adore. There's no bleed through whatsoever. I mean, I do like full acrylic painting on these things at times. I can layer with markers and ink and any other paints, whatever I want, and the back of the page stays completely clean, which is incredible. The paper has this nice smooth texture, but it's still like really sturdy as well. So it's thick enough to hold mixed media, but it's also soft enough for pencil sketching. And I personally really like hard-covered sketchbooks just to keep things really durable and secure. And so I can throw it in my bag in a rush without worrying that's gonna get destroyed. I get so many questions about the types of sketchbooks that I use. And before this, I had sketchbooks that got the job done, but none that felt like I could really work and connect with. And Render finally gave me that, and now it's my go-to. It's just a really great sketchbook. It is more on the expensive side nowadays. When I used to get it, it would be around $15, but now I do believe it's around $20 to $25. So it is more expensive, but it has so many pages. It does what I need it to do, and it was really worth the investment to get these sketchbooks for myself. Alright, so this really is the moneymaker here. I know that these aren't any fancy artist pencil whatsoever, but the Bic mechanical pencils, the extra strong 0.9 millimeter lead, is honest to God the only pencil I use to sketch with, especially in my sketchbook. So it's not crazy, it's not fancy, but these things are reliable. I sketch a lot and I need something that keeps up with me without constantly breaking the lead. And so this lead is thicker than the average mechanical pencil, which means it doesn't snap every 2 seconds. And even when I'm sketching fast or pressing hard. I also personally love mechanical pencils. For some reason, a normal pencil just doesn't fit or work right for me. And I also love that I don't have to stop and sharpen it when I need to. I can just keep working on my art. Over the years, I have gotten expensive drawing pencils, and while they do have their place, I always come back to these ones because it's just so effortless to use, and honestly, they're super, super cheap and last forever, so I never have to worry about losing one. This is quite literally the only pack that I've gotten ever since I was in high school, so it's lasted me like 8 years at this point, and I'm still not even close to going through them. So I never feel worried that I'm gonna run out of a pencil or need to go get new ones because I got these bad boys on my side. They're comfortable, they're colorful, and they're really cheap, so I definitely recommend these if you like to personally use mechanical pencils yourself. Kind of jumping right into a similar conversation, while the erasers on the mechanical pencils are quite literally the same as these ones that I have here, so I absolutely love the eraser on the pencils. If I need to erase large proportions or aspects within my sketchbook or any other page that I'm working on, any sorts of plastic or polyester type erasers are really, really good. Personally, I really like the mono eraser. Big erasers are nice because they just last a bit longer if you need it. And some erasers I find tend to leave weird residues or smear things when they shouldn't, but erasers like these, they lift the graphite really cleanly without messing up the paper. Granted, I will say if you press really, really hard with your lead, maybe it might not come off all the way. That's just kind of how it works. These are really, really great for just getting something off a page. They're simple tools, but it does help make a difference and clean up areas within my pieces that I just don't want. Alright, y'all, I'm gonna butcher this name so bad, but the Caron Diachi crayons, I'm so sorry. These crayons are one of my new favorites to use within my craft or in my sketchbook. I actually discovered them within my printmaking class when we were using crayons to transfer onto pages, and I immediately knew I needed these within my own work. They are more on the expensive side, but what's nice about these is you can get them in singles, so you don't have to get multiple right away. They're somewhat in between like a typical Crayola crayon and an oil pastel. They're really buttery and smooth and super, super pigmented. You can get them in different packs with different shades. And I love using them in my sketchbook to add pops of color because they don't have the waxy, streaky feel of normal crayons. Instead, they really sort of melt onto the page. And it makes everything feel more painterly and rich, which is what I like within my sketchbooks. It honestly makes things feel really fun and less strict when it comes to working on your art, because personally it brings me back to like when I was little and using crayons, and it just kind of has this like relieving sense whenever I work with them. So I would definitely recommend these if you'd like to add pops of color here and there. Now I wanted to move on to the tools and supplies that I mostly use when it comes to painting. A lot of these can also work in just sketchbooking as well. If I could only use one brand of acrylic forever, it would be Golden. I have so many of these paints from my time in college and just gradually collecting more and more colors for different projects. The colors are just extremely pigmented. I can never open these with my fingers though, so maybe that's a downside. Is personally I always use pliers. I always use pliers to open them so they don't hurt my fingers. The texture is so smooth. And personally, because I've tried other acrylics when I first tried to get into them in college, at the beginning of college, and some acrylics felt so chalky or weak, even higher brand acrylics, just kind of like these ones are, and I couldn't do it. Golden paints go on really rich, and even one layer is super bold. Sometimes it's even enough just for one layer of color on some areas. I especially love them for layering and glazing with different mediums in acrylic paints and textures that you can add to the paints. If I need depth and vibrancy in painting, this is what I reach for immediately. They are, like most artist paints, more expensive depending on the series of pigments that you are trying to get. For example, this is a series 1, so that's going to be more on the cheaper side, though this is a 5 ounce and you can get them in 5, 2 ounces, or even bigger if you really want to. So it would depend on how much paint you're getting and the series, but this one would be really cheap. For example, this one is a series 7, so it would be more on the expensive side because you're paying for more of a pigmented paint. What I also like about these paints, for example, unless you just want to buy it straight out of the tube and not have to worry about mixing for, let's say, if you're trying to color match or larger series of paintings, it will tell you the exact paints and different pigments it used within its own series to make the color. Unless, of course, it comes straight out of the ground or wherever they get the pigments where you can't mix it. These are really worth it. If you can afford it, I would highly recommend it. I was able to due to college scholarships and grants. Though I have so many now, really, I would just start with the primary colors because you can get so far with just those few colors. Alright, now moving on to another series of paints that I really enjoy. This one right here, the Brilliant Blue, is honestly one of my signature blue paints that I use in a lot of my pieces. Liquitex is a little more fluid than Golden, which makes it great for blending and covering large areas of paintings. I like using both because Golden gives me that intense color payoff, while Liquitex gives me smoother transitions and softer details, and really makes for great washes on canvases, because you can get larger tubes of it for way cheaper than Golden. I believe these tubes go for about $5 each. It doesn't matter the pigment or series that it is. Honestly, before I found Golden, I was using these for almost everything. I have a couple more colors, but these are the main ones I use for base colors on paintings and just for my own signature little touch. But if you're looking for something more affordable for acrylics, I would recommend these ones right here. They're cheap and they're still really bold and cover pretty well. Alright, I'm pretty sure everyone knows what these are. These are my Posca paint pens. These are definitely one of my favorite tools and mediums to use in my huge, more elaborate paintings, and also just something to use in my sketchbook. They come in so many different sizes and ballpoints. I even have big giant ones like these that I've had to use for bigger pieces of projects. If you love painting but wish you could draw with paint, you would really enjoy these pens. I love them for finer details in my paintings or clean outlines or even full-on illustrations that I've made. I use these a lot for my mixed media work, especially when I want to add crisp highlights or bold shapes. These also, like the crayons, come in singles, so you don't have to buy a bunch right away. They also come as packs as well. I've collected these since high school and up through college, so I've definitely gathered quite a couple throughout my years. For me, they're really good investments, and I personally just love how they feel. I know there's other types of acrylic paints out there that are in pen form. Personally, I haven't used them. I've always only used Posca, so I'm not sure how the others would hold up, but I am curious to try other brands. You'll have to let me know if you have any yourself in the comments below. Alright, now moving on to brushes. Don't ever get a brush like this. It's quite literally was given to me as a joke. It's huge. It looks like a prop. Like it shouldn't even be real. I don't paint with this at all. There are two brands of brushes that I really enjoy and have utilized for every single painting that I create. The Simply Simmons or Simons, I'm honestly not too sure. are really great for everyday painting and working on canvases. I don't personally get a lot of bristle brushes just because I don't like them, but ones like these are really great for covering large areas and washes in your paintings. I don't have it with me, but I even just have a giant typical hardware store brush that I use for just covering large areas of canvas works. You can tell I really like them because they're pretty messy, but these are great. They're durable and reliable, and they hold their shape really well. What I like about these ones is that they come in more longer handle forms, so I use these ones a lot for my canvas works and sitting down and working on larger pieces, so you don't always feel limited in your range of movements when you're painting. And then moving on to my other favorite brand is the Princeton Velvet Touch brushes. Honestly, these ones are really my go-to for blending and soft details because the bristles are extra smooth. All the brushes that I love to use are synthetic because they're softer, and I just like how it works better on a page or a canvas. I always use the Princeton ones for paintings in my sketchbook because they're small and easy to hold, almost like a pencil, and I really enjoy that. I love both of these brands because they each bring something different to the table and work really well between page work and canvas work. So the next thing I want to talk about is canvases. These supplies though will definitely be more to your discretion because it really depends on the thickness that you want, how big canvases are, etc. I have really big canvases, there's no way they could fit on the table. I don't have a specific brand that I get from. I think this one is even just from Michaels, or I'll get them at Blick or other art stores. But I personally really love thicker canvases that really come off the wall when you hang them up. For me, it almost acts as like a sculpture more than just a painting. And personally, with heavier duty canvases, they hold up really well, they look really nice, and I don't have to worry a lot when it comes to wood warping because that happens quite surprisingly a lot on thinner canvases and wood. And if you layer with a lot in your paintings, or you like something more bold, these hold up really, really well. I already put washes on these ones for future paintings. They hold up well no matter how much paint, texture, or layering you throw at them or that I plan on throwing at them. The depth of these is my favorite part of thicker canvases. You can even make your own canvases and frames. I've done that in a couple of my college classes, but that tends to actually be a little more expensive depending on how you're creating it or the type of cloth and things that you're adding onto the frame. So just typical canvases you find at the art store are they're cheaper and they still hold up really well. Okay, so next on my list for paintings, I don't have a lot of these personally because I don't go through them as fast. And these are definitely way more on the expensive side depending on the pigments once again, because these are basically straight up pigment in a tube. But R&E pigment sticks are really incredible and they really are satisfying to use. They feel like giant pastels, but instead of a chalky color, you get rich, buttery, straight pigment, and it blends really, really well. What I love about these are the freedom that they give me. I can draw directly onto the canvas and smear color with my hands or layer them with traditional brushes. You can be really expressive with these, and they bring a whole new energy to painting because they're so immediate and expressive. And like the crayons in my sketchbook, these can be really nice on just big canvas works. So I really do like these a lot. Hopefully in the future I can get more colors. And something that I feel like is pretty universal when it comes to painting is easels. I have personally 3 different kinds. This is my mini easel that I use for obviously just smaller desk paintings that I like to do if I'm bored or don't want to get super intense with giant canvas works. But these are just standard ones I personally got from Blick. I'm sure there's so many mini easels in other craft stores or even online. This is a really nice one for smaller pieces. And then I also have a desk easel that I got, I believe, in my freshman year of college. I didn't have a dorm, so I come home and work on paintings. And it is really nice to even just put your sketchbook on if you're doing some sketchbook work here and there. So that's another great one. And then obviously the final one, which I actually got recently this year to work on my final BFA painting, is this giant easel, and personally it takes up a lot of space. I don't have my own studio. I'm currently just in my room, so it's definitely not ideal. Personally, I just needed a bigger easel that would work for holding my BFA paintings and working at home, because I don't always have access to the studios at school. But it is a really nice easel for the investment. I really do like it. It's so adjustable, and I do like that it has a little platform at the bottom where I can put my other easels and my giant painting bag. It is worth it, though definitely more of the expensive upfront investment, and I'm hoping that I will be more happy with it when I have more space and feel like it's not blocking every area that I walk. But that's just a personal problem. Those are the 3 easels that I personally use, and I do love all of them. It just, depending on the upfront cost, there's some options that you can think about. Alright, I feel like this is going to be a little bit more of a silly conversation. So next up is palettes. And this is the only palette that I have and use. I've had it since starting college, and I know a palette isn't the most exciting art supply, but it makes a huge difference in how I paint, and mixing colors and just having a spot for paints to just dry or actually able to blend and mix tones. I don't have a fancy glass palette. It's not a wood palette. This one is easy clean palette, which is really ironic. It honestly, it's like a whiteboard texture and feel. I think it pretty much is. It's ironic because, as you can see, I don't clean my palette. Because I work in acrylic paints, it's not like oil where I can just wipe it off. They dry so fast and just build up. And it just got to a point where cleaning it felt really pointless for me. But I tried to scrape as much possible off that I've used. But in a way, I do like it this way. I think maybe personally, it kind of just has and shows the history of different paintings I've been working on. And because it just layers up over time, it's almost like my own little history here as an artist in my painting career, as I used to really hate painting until college. So yeah, it's like my little unintentional art project. But if you were to actually clean it, unlike me, these are pretty nice because it's smooth, and they do tend to come off. If you were using oil paints or watercolors, that probably would have been better. So maybe I wouldn't recommend it if you're using acrylic, but also a lot of palettes that you use acrylic will do the same thing and just stick, unless you get a glass palette, which I personally didn't get at the time because they're really expensive, and I probably never will unless I decide to work with oils in the future. But if you are looking for a glass palette, you can go to just a thrift store or a Goodwill or just some type of store that has glass frames or picture frames and use those instead. If you just make sure to tape the edges so you don't cut yourself or injure yourself, then you would be good to go, and there would be a great glass palette to use. But this is the one I've liked and had for 4 years now, and maybe it's not the best, but it's my own little personal history here, so I enjoy it. So now I really wanted to move into another new medium that I've been really enjoying, and that's stamping and carving. So lino cut is one of my favorite ways to make art, and it's so tactile and rewarding. I'm gonna butcher this so bad, but I use the Speedball Linogravier. And these blocks are my go-to. They come in different sizes, but this is a newer one I have. They're soft enough to carve smoothly and not feeling like you're straining with your hands to carve wood or any sort of other tools that you would use for carving. But they're firm enough to really hold in those lines and fine details. They're honestly like carving into big erasers. And I really enjoy that. It feels really great on my hands, and I never feel like I'm cramping or like something's too hard to carve. I made my own stamp quite literally with a medicine bottle. But I love that you can get as intricate or simple as you want, whether it's bold and graphic shapes or delicate line work. Honestly, these blocks can really handle it all. And once I've carved a design, I can print it over and over again, which makes it perfect for handmade prints or even textiles. These are the carving tools that I use, and I know like a bad carving tool can make or break this craft because bad carving tools are hard to use and they can really hurt your hands. This one here is the typical speedball carving tool. It comes with a lot of different carving tips and sizes, which is really nice. And it's compactable, so I can bring it and not worry about losing my tips. I honestly get a lot of mixed opinions about the speedball carving tool, which I can understand, like maybe it doesn't feel right in people's hands or it hurts. I truly do believe it depends on what you're trying to carve, and if you're trying to just carve linoleum or lino, it's really easy, it's not painful, but I can see trying to carve wood how it can be more straining and painful. So genuinely, I really like this carving tool. I don't get cramps, I can hold it really nicely in my hand. It's a really great investment just because it's cheaper and it comes with a lot of different options that you can use for carving. And another one that I reach for here and there, this one would be ideal for more like wood carving as well, thin wood, and maybe something that's a little harder to carve. So if there's ever tools like that I have, the power grip is the way to go. Easy to hold, and I do believe this one, I think these come in a pack, but I only have one, and it's really simple to hold as well. But because I believe these come in a pack, it is more expensive. I believe that a lot of carving tools besides speedball are more expensive. So if you can't afford a giant pack because these aren't interchangeable blades or tools, you would have to get multiple of different sizes. But if you're looking to use them for wood or harder things to cut and carve, then I would recommend ones like these. These are the inks that I use for stamping. If you were to stamp on clothes, you would use fabric paint or things as the sort for that type of medium. So these ones are only meant for really paperworks and stamping in your sketchbooks or on pieces of paper. I really do like the archival ink. You can find these almost in any craft store. I do really enjoy them. The ink is really nice and bold, and you can really see your lines and makes things really crisp looking. They also don't bleed through typical pages for art paper, and so that's really amazing as well. I do believe these bigger pads are somewhere between $10 to $15, so a bit more expensive, but the smaller pads for typical stamping are $3 to $5, which is nice as well. This is my main source of digital artwork that I create, and it is my iPad Pro. I believe the 12-inch one. I got this around halfway through my college years because my old small laptop quite literally took a crash and died on me. And I did a couple digital work here and there in the past, but I really wanted to start heavily getting into that process, especially when it comes to working on my own future comic and things to do on the go. This was really a big investment for me in my art. Because of other art programs and tools I've used in the past for digital work, I personally really hated drawing with a mouse. So getting an iPad that I could use a stylus and a pen to actually physically draw with was such a game changer for me and working with digital art. This was the more expensive of any tool I have just because I got a lot of storage. I think it either comes with 1 or 2 terabytes because I use it for not just digital artwork as well. So this was expensive. Like I genuinely think it was between $1,000 to $2,000. It's very much an investment to make when you can or work up to getting it. But it is truly one of the best investments I've made for my own craft. And moving straight into the digital program that I use for drawing, This probably is really stereotypical and easy to tell at this point because it is an iPad. I use Procreate and even Procreate Dreams to do my digital artwork. It's personally my favorite art program that I've found and used. The program's easy, it was really fast to understand for me personally. You can get and import brushes. I love how you can really control a lot of aspects within your work, color profile, sizes, etc., any sort of settings you need to do. And I feel like I've really been able to grow my digital art experience with Procreate. So I really do enjoy Procreate as my main source of digital art as a program. Alright, and last but not least is my Cricut machine. This is definitely something that's not a traditional or even just like a digital art supply that you typically would get and have. But it has been a game changer for me, especially when I'm expanding on prints and stickers and just carving out certain designs and things I want to use for my craft. Because I am disabled, it is hard to spend hours utilizing my hands, and having this machine has really helped in terms of cutting and just being able to not have to worry about sitting or standing long when it comes to cutting out things. I can just design something and then import it and have Cricut cut it for me, and it's really satisfying to watch. It saves me so much time. By hours, it saves me so much time. Though it is something that is such a bigger investment as well. It's not as expensive as an iPad, but it is something that you would save up for and just get if you really need it and truly decide that you want to invest in this product. I personally got this as a gift one year, quite long ago actually, and I was only able to start using it this year. It's definitely a bit of a learning curve, but you can really use so much different products on it, and it has changed what I decide to make with my craft, and obviously stickers is one of my favorite things to create now. So if you can, and if it is in your eyes worth it for maybe your small business or your own art practice, this is a great machine to use and get. So those are my absolute favorite art supplies, the ones that I swear by and use all the time. I hope this helped you if you're looking for new tools to try or just curious about what I use involved in my work. I will personally link a list down below in the description regarding all the supplies that I have and enjoy. Non-affiliated, so I will not be getting a commission if you do buy these products. So I hope this video and that list is helpful for you. And if you would like to share what your favorite art supply is, I'd love to hear so in the comments below. I would love to know what other fellow creatives like to use within their own work. Thank you for being here, thank you for watching, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Bye!